Well, I'm KIRO 7, pinpoint meteorologist.
Listen on demand. Go to mynorthwest.com and click podcasts. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from Carter Subaru Studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Welcome to The Big Show. What a show we have today. Dave Wyman's going to join us at 1:30. A Seattle radio legend is going to join us at 12:30 this afternoon.
Great.
Yeah, because, it was 10 years ago today.
What?
Balloon Boy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And so...
Why does that feel like it was longer than 10 years ago?
That's what I said because Tony Miner, our news guy, the story broke right as I was going on the air at noon. And we're following this... And in case people don't know about this. So there was... the story was a 6-year-old boy had climbed into this helium balloon that kind of looked like a UFO and was flying through the sky in Colorado. And all of a sudden, everybody's scrambling. They've got live pictures of this balloon, and the dad is saying that the little kid...
His name is Falcon.
Falcon was inside this balloon, and we started doing updates, but then we're watching the live picture, and so Tony Miner just came in, and we just kind of co-hosted the whole thing. And I had a listener who started sending me these fantastic calculations of how big the helium balloon would have to be to have a 6-year-old boy inside of it, how much helium would be needed to provide that much lift. And so we were the first media outlet in the country to thoroughly debunk, while everybody else was breathlessly reporting that the kid was going to freeze to death at 10,000 feet.
I remember.
Or the balloon was going to come crashing to the ground and the kid was going to die. And so we definitively were saying, there's no kid in that. And then it turns out...
That's all a hoax.
Not only was it a hoax, but the dad said that, he was sure that Falcon was in it, but Falcon was hiding behind a sofa because he was afraid because he had released the balloon. And then the dad and Falcon go live on CNN, and the dad says, why didn't you come out when I was calling you? And the kid said, because you told me not to.
That was on Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah. And the dad, the mom and dad had just concocted this hoax because they hoped it would get them a reality TV show. So anyway, it was truly one of the most memorable broadcasts of my career. So Tony Miner's going to join us.
That's awesome.
Our dear friend.
I love Tony.
Yeah. So I texted him this morning. I had the same reaction as you, Ursula. About 7 o'clock this morning, I texted him and said, you realize Balloon Boy was 10 years ago today? And he said, that was our finest moment. But as I was writing it, I was thinking, that feels like it was 15 or 20 years ago.
It really does. Maybe we've just,
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on in the last 10 years.
Yeah, there has been. That's for dang sure. So anyway, we'll take you down memory lane with our buddy Tony Miner coming up at the bottom of the hour here. But we got a lot of news to talk about. Let's get to the big lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
Hey, good news, kids. If you can't pass the test that's required to graduate, we're just going to give you a diploma anyway here in Washington. Let me read to you the lead graph in the My Northwest story. High school graduation requirements are potentially about to change in Washington. Students will still be required to take federally mandated exams. They just won't be required to pass them. Yes! Yes, the dumbing down of our children finally is nearing the bottom. So because so many kids are not passing this mandated exam. The schools are freaking out because it's hurting their graduation rate, and all they want to do is pass kids through. I don't know about you, but it wasn't that long ago. It was a long time ago since I was in school, but there would always be those one or two kids who had to be held back and had to do an extra year of high school because they didn't graduate. Well, now it'd be 50 or 75 kids who would be held back, or maybe even more likely would just drop out. And we don't want kids just drop out because they have to actually have some sign, some measure of achievement. So we're just going to let them graduate, even if they horribly flunked the test. And, a few weeks ago, the head of the Washington Education Association, it's all about the children. They tell us, that's the thing. These teacher unions, every time they go on strike, we're doing this for the kids, for the quality of education. And it turns out the quality of education isn't just going downhill. It jumped off a cliff without a base jumping chute. It's all about the children. The WEA, they talked to Seattle's Morning News a couple weeks ago about this.
Yes, we fought long and hard for fair compensation, professional compensation for educators across the state. And there's probably some pockets out there around the state that didn't make the gains that a lot
But you're generally happy.
Generally happy.
Yes, because they got more money. It was all for the children, right? But that raises the question, why isn't our children learning? Well, pretty easy to answer that. Because government-run schools are failing our kids in so many ways, where so many kids can't pass basic graduation requirements, they just lower the basic graduation requirements. And I loved some of the comments on our My Northwest story. The first one, if you laid out a plan to destroy a country from within, allowing students to remain stupid would be near the top of that plan. But of course, the more kids we have, and by the way, there are a lot of kids who are diligent and high achievers, and we have a lot of schools that put out kids who go to outstanding universities. But we also have an increasing number of kids who can't do basics of math or spelling or anything when they get out of the schools. Another commenter, yet private school students not only pass these tests, they kick public school booty in knowledge competitions and bowls. Public school teachers earn significantly more than private. Look it up, I did. This means the root of the evil is administration, government regulations. We've got to find out and fix it instead of simply throwing more and more money at it. Now, we are throwing more money, but not at educating kids. It's just going to teacher salaries. Here's one thought. Maybe, just maybe, instead of spending all of the time in schools on social justice issues, instead of spending all of your time on the nonsense of climate change, the cult of climate change, and teaching our kids to be terrified to attend school because they're going to be mowed down in another slaughter, all perpetuated. As I've said, schools are about the safest place a child can be in America, statistically speaking. But our schools have become leftist indoctrination academies, where imparting social justice values and virtues in their warped view is more important than teaching kids. And the result? We have to dumb down graduation requirements. But again, government-run schools have a motivation to crank out stupid people. And why? Because the stupider you are, the more you have to rely on government. for your life, for your livelihood, to get you a minimum wage job, to take other guys' stuff and give it to you. Yeah, there is an absolute government model for wanting to have schools that teach kids to just be social justice warriors and not be able to pass basic minimum standards. And so that's where we are in Washington now. They are going to, and they say that they're proposing this. They're going to do it because they simply are failing at educating the kids. Every time the teachers go on strike or threaten a strike for the students, they are lying to you because the kids are not achieving at a level that is anywhere near what should be acceptable in a society like ours. Look at what European kids know versus, we had a neighbor a few years ago. They had an exchange student. She was 14 years old, and I sat and talked with her. They had a barbecue one night, and this kid was the most whip-smart 14-year-old I'd ever talked to, and, spoke fluent English, accented English. And I asked her, about all this, and she just told me what their schools demand of them. And then when you're 16 or so, you're either on the university track or you're on the trade school track. And if you're not a great student, they still provide a pathway for you to earn a decent living. So we're so screwed up here. But that's the new solution. Since kids are not passing the mandated test, we're just going to not use the mandated test as a graduation requirement anymore. Brilliant, isn't it? Up next in the big lead.
The big lead. Your tax dollars at work.
So while government's screwing up our kids in our schools, they're also trying to conspire to take more of our money. And it is now very close to implementation. I've been telling you about this for decades. And the State Transportation Committee is about to turn every single road in our state into a toll road. They say that they have now completed the pilot project where they had 2,000 volunteers who reported their mileage, and the state, on a dummy basis, they said, okay, you're going to pay 2.4 cents per mile instead of a gas tax. Well, the gas tax is not going away. Not for decades, because they got a bunch of projects that are bonded against the gas tax. And so it would be illegal to phase out the gas tax. What they want to do is they want to turn every road into a toll road. So how are they going to monitor how many miles you drive? Well, they could check your odometer, but that is not the approach they want. They want to put a transponder in every vehicle in the state. And it will track where you drive and when you drive. And the reason is because they tell us it's going to cost 2.4 cents a mile, and that is the nose under the tent. But their stated goal, and they don't make any bones about this, is what they call variable tolling. And so it may stay 2.4 cents a mile when you drive to your local grocery store or take your kids to school. But if you want to drive into downtown Seattle, it could be $25. In Virginia, it's a $35 toll to go into Washington, D.C. now. And that is their goal. If they have a transponder on your vehicle, they can tell you, yeah, if you drive I-5 or 405 morning rush hour, then we're going to charge you $2 a mile. If you drive at midnight to your friend who lives 8 blocks away, then it'll be 2 cents a mile. But they want to know where you're driving when. They want to. Are you going to let transponders? You going to let government put a transponder in your car? Because I've told you that this is all going to come down. I've now signed a long enough contract extension that it's all going to come down while I still have a radio show, and this will be the fight of my career. Because if we allow this to happen, it will be the biggest money grab in the history of the state, even bigger than Sound Transit. They want to transfer tens of billions of dollars to their control through this tolling system. And, of course, the ultimate goal is, for the anti-car zealots, they want to punish you if you have to drive a vehicle to live your life. If public transportation doesn't allow you to, coach your kids' basketball team or get your kids to piano lessons, you can't take public transportation. Maybe you're a tradesperson. You have plumbing tools or drywall tools. You're a carpenter. You can't take public transportation. They want to punish you if you have a suburban family life, if you have a tradesperson life. That is the ultimate goal, is to either get everybody on public transportation or to absolutely financially destroy people who still have to use their cars. I hope you're in this fight with me, because it is going to take a massive effort to hold this back, because when they see billions of dollars at stake, they will stop at nothing to get that from us. Up next in the Big League.
The Big Lead, big local.
I'm going to go into this in a little more detail a little bit later, but there was a big press conference yesterday. A couple of local tribes, the Yakima and Lemhi tribal leaders, they want 3 dams on the Columbia River removed. And the Yakima Nation Council chairman, Jody Godey, explained why.
We have a choice, and it's one or the other. Dams or salmon.
Okay, so you can have, they claim the choice is you can have lower cost, clean electricity or salmon. As you know, I go salmon fishing up in Sitka, Alaska myself, so I love the salmon. But am I the only one? If the option is cheap, clean electricity or salmon, I'd take the cheap, clean electricity. And I love salmon. But if that's the choice they're going to put out there for us, I bet I'm in the minority on that one, though. You can let me know. 98973 is our text line. 98973. And I'll go more into detail on that a little bit later this afternoon. That is your Big Lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then we're going to take a trip down memory lane. 10 years ago today, one of the most bizarre radio broadcasts I've ever had. Tell you about it next.